we got Figuarts Spider-Gwen from Across the Spider-Verse. If you're at all a Spider-Man fan, you love this movie, and I really wanted a Spider-Gwen figure based on this design specifically with the pink highlights, so I managed to hunt her down, and now here she is. So, yeah, let's open her up. Slides out nice and easy, only one slit needed, and there's some instructions. Who gives a shit? Here. Oh, this is cool. I actually didn't know it came with this. This is a nice display stand. I kind of like it when companies include like a character specific display stand. This is nice. The pink and kind of teal blue. That's cool. And here is the main tray with the figure herself. Aesthetically, I think Figuarts is in the lead here with ahead of most companies. It looks really good. Like that Gwen head sculpt, that is straight from the movie, man. That is good. And the costume design looks really nice. Yeah, I'm excited to get into this figure. She looks really good. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a masterpiece. This movie was simply a divine experience in the theaters. I remember when I watched it when it first came out, I was actually in shock throughout the entire film. There were so many twists and turns, and the animation was so good. All of the characters were amazing. Spider-Punk is the GOAT, but one of the standout characters for me, besides from Miles, is Spider-Gwen. I thoroughly enjoyed her arc in the movie, and I feel like in this movie in particular, she was a much more fleshed out character than in Into the Spider-Verse, which obviously makes sense. Into the Spider-Verse was very heavily centered around Miles. She kind of stole the show from me along with Spider-Punk. She was just such a fun character to follow, and her arc with her father was absolutely beautiful. So when I started getting into this whole figure collecting thing, I of course wanted a figure of a favorite character of mine. So I was on the hunt for a Spider-Gwen action figure. Sadly, my only options seemed to have been just Marvel Legends and Figuarts. For some reason, Mafex and Sentinel did not participate in making Across the Spider-Verse figures. But yes, I was stuck with these two. And well, in my eyes, there was only one choice. I actually want accessories and I want better articulation. So yeah, I picked up the Figuarts Gwen. Here she is right now. She is quite expensive, however. You will most likely not find her for less than $90, and in total you're probably going to be paying close to $100, which is what I ended up paying for her. And with the high price tag, there are a good number of issues on this figure that might deter you from buying this figure yourself. Although, as a whole, this is still the best Across the Spider-Verse Gwen, but does that really matter when it's really the only Across the Spider-Verse Gwen? We'll take a look at the paint and sculpt first, and this is the highlight of this figure for sure. This entire costume is textured very nicely. It's a very nice figure to handle. She feels very premium, and I really love the head sculpts on her, especially the angry mask. This is actually like the coolest one. I really wish companies would include a mask like this for more spider people, because these eyes are actually squinted. They look angry, and I love that. Now, there isn't much in terms of sculpted or molded detail. She is basically a stick in a spandex costume. She is very thin and skinny, which is obviously in line with the movie. She is pretty thin and spindly in the movie. Not as much as Miles, but I feel like she could use with a little bit more meat on her bones. I don't think she was this skinny in the movie. Like the end of her forearm where the wrist comes in, it's like non-existent. It is so tiny, and that actually becomes an issue once we get into accessories, but that's for later. There also isn't much paint and shading detail. However, the figure does have a nice matte finish all throughout. The plastic is pretty high quality. It doesn't look cheap at all. It doesn't feel cheap at all. And where there is the painted details, like the inside of her hood, her forearms with the web pattern, and her shoes, very nice, all well done. The only thing I wish was that she came with the ballerina slippers instead of the Converse shoes you get here, but it's really a non-issue, and it still looks really cool. Now for accessories, and this is where we get the start of the issues here. The big one being, for whatever reason unknown to me and everyone else that collects action figures of Spider-Man, they did not give her fists. They did not give her fists. Why? Even in this movie alone, we see Spider-Gwen throwing hands with many people. And how does she throw hands besides using web attacks and her kicks and whatever? Fists. She punches them really hard. It's like
the main way spider people fight aside from their webs and kicks. Fists. Why? You get all the other hands you would need. You get resting hands, flipping hands, wall crawlers, and some drifter relax hands, but you do not get the fists. Why? It really baffles my mind because they included everything else you would need. The web accessories, while I personally do not care for them because I use custom webbing, they're definitely serviceable. You get 3 and they're nice. They're all nice and done. And here is another issue. Remember how I mentioned that her wrists were tiny? That also goes for the wrist pegs. They are super tiny and they do feel really fragile. And her hands, for whatever reason, are actually smaller than the wrist peg themselves, meaning that it is extremely annoying to get it on. You fight with these things a lot, and every time you think you're about to get them in, they slip right out at the smallest nudge. It's honestly pretty frustrating. And yes, sadly, all the hands are like this. It's not just one pair of hand or one specific hand. No, they're all like this, so you're gonna be fighting a lot. Focusing on the head sculpts for a bit, I really like them. I actually think this is another like big highlight of the figure. The unmasked head sculpt of just Gwen's face, actually straight out of the movie. I love the details here. This is actually just sublime in my opinion. I love the pink highlights. I love the expression they gave her. She doesn't look, off. And this is actually really cool. They included her piercings, her eyebrow piercings, and they're not like a flat color. They're actually shiny. It's so cool. So much attention to detail. I love both of the mask sculpts. The squinty eyes one I talked about earlier. Very cool. I really like the open-eyed one. The sheen they gave the lenses and the pink paint around the frame, very nicely done. It's very nice. But again, there are no fists. I think they wanted you to use these web grabbing hands as fists, but it doesn't work because obviously they're not clenched like fists. The thumb is not clenched. I really don't get why they didn't include fists. Other than that, you can definitely get by like this. Just can't have her punch anyone, I guess. And now for the biggest disappointment of this figure, the articulation. How well does she move? It was almost really good, but there is one thing that stops this figure from being truly the definitive Spider-Gwen figure. This figure does have great range when the joints work. The neck is also a ball peg with nice range. The shoulder joints, while they look weird, they do offer great range. The butterfly joints offer really good range. It's when you get to the torso area where it starts to fall apart. The top diaphragm joint does work really well actually. You do get a lot of range. The side to side's pretty good. The forward is a little limited, but I think it's definitely good enough. But the waist, the waist. Okay, so get a load of this. You go back good enough, less than the top diaphragm joint, but you do go back pretty nicely with both of the joints working together. But the forward, it's there. It moves forward. It does go forward, but can you really call this an ab crunch or forward movement? Yes, this is all you get. That's all you get. If you push it anymore, it breaks off. I cannot believe it, man. My theory is the ball peg is way too low. You know how Marvel Legends puts their ball pegs really low in the neck sometimes, so you get like no looking up movement from the head? This is the same thing here, but in my opinion, this is far worse because this ball joint waist should have amazing range. It should be glorious range, but because they put it wrong, because it's in a wrong position, it simply does not work the way it's supposed to. And it comes off very easy. Now it does pop in very easily. You just gotta give it a little force and it's on nice, but it's right there. This is what stops the figure from being like the definitive Spider-Gwen. Looking past these issues, this is still a fun action figure. She feels very high quality, she's fun to pose around with, and the accessories, while you don't get the fists, they are a nice decent spread and you get all you need and then some. The head sculpts are genuinely the highlight of this figure. I absolutely love them. But man, that waist ball, it hurts. It actually does hurt. And finally, a quick size comparison. I'm surprised with how tall she is. I thought she was going to be a little shorter, but she is right up to Marvel Legends Andrew's height, so I think she'll fit in nicely with most figure lengths. The best Spider-Gwen figure? Yes, but heavily flawed. Overall, I'm going to give this figure a 6.5 out of 10.